Welcome to the Network Build Grow podcast, the show where business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals share their stories, lessons learned, and powerful strategies for building relationships and growing their circle of influence. With Melissa Taylor, your host, each week we'll bring you actionable insights to help you build a better network and a better business. Let's dive in.
Welcome, Peet, to our podcast. I'm so excited to get to talk to you today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, everybody, this is Peet Van Niekerk with Designer Needed, and he's actually all the way over in Cape Town.
That
So,
is,
tell us,
yeah,
how
that's
did
great.
you, before we start in on your business, how did you find us?
So it happened during 2020. I had this realization that everybody was at home. So I realized, along with that, everybody needed to meet other people as well and network and still keep growing their business. So I made a point of visiting as many networking groups as I could all over the world. And that's how I found Network Build Grow. I made a point of staying consistent in visiting and getting to know the network. And the rest is history. By I mean, back then, it was still free. It wasn't a paid for, but I mean, once it became where you could buy a membership, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. So yeah.
I love that. So, tell us a little bit about Designer Needed, a little bit about why you do what you do, and then why you do it.
All right. So essentially, we sell design packages, so graphic design packages and social media packages and anything that can help you market. It started, I mean, I've been a designer my whole life, but it started with the idea that I would often get logos or designs from other designers for businesses, and it was unfinished or it was incomplete or the client didn't have a great experience with previous marketing companies. So I kind of saw the need for creating packages that allow me to create that brand in its consistency and make sure that it looks the same throughout, from the website to the social media to the local to the letterheads and the business card, so that people kind of get to know the brand and do that familiarization immediately. So that's essentially where the idea came from and why I do it the way I do it.
Yeah, I think that seamless visual branding is so important. And people
I
think it's
agree.
only important for, people like speakers or influencers or people with a personal brand. I'm like, no, visual brand is important for any business. You could be a chiropractor, you could be a real estate agent, you could be a financial planner. And it's really important to have that consistent
Yeah,
visual branding.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, how often have you landed on someone's Facebook page, as an example, and it's just the header image, it's just this big logo with a white background, or or gone to a website and you could see it's just the logo and it's a white background, and then what people tend to forget is the same way we put makeup on and the same way we want to be perceived as who we are and what we stand for. Your brand needs to do the same for your business, and people miss that sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's almost like your brand, which includes a lot more than just your logo,
Yeah, yeah.
is it's like the fashion statement.
Yeah.
It's like your
Yes.
fashion statement. It's really what you're putting forward. So I love that. So tell me, looking back, what is one of those key lessons that you learned on this journey of being a solo entrepreneur, small business owner?
So for me, it is essentially a two-parter. Whether it is, well, the first part of it is consistency. So whether you're advertising on social media or networking, you have to keep showing up. And once you do that first post, you can't expect results immediately. I see this all the time. I see the networking groups, even myself. I fell for it once or twice, where you go to a networking group, you introduce yourself, and you expect everybody's going to run to you, and now you're going to have all these connections, and business going to flow in. It doesn't, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, you have to be consistent, and you have to just keep going. The second part of that is and it kind of ties in exactly to the first part. You have to realize that success does not happen overnight. This took me a long time to learn. Things take time, and you're not going to wake up suddenly one day and have it all figured out. But the sooner you embrace the process and realize that every little bit, imagine a rock, imagine back in the day when they had, when they were making all these beautiful statues, they started chipping, and then one day it was a beautiful statue, but it takes time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It takes time and it looks rough along the way sometimes.
It does.
And you can't sometimes, like you kind of take that chipping away at a rock analogy a little further. Sometimes when you're chipping away at it, you can't even really tell what it's going to end up being, like what
No,
it's going to look
no.
like.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But I mean, if you believe and you have a vision of where you want to go and how you want it to look at the end, you just got to keep going. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think about, Mount Rushmore here,
Yeah.
right? When they were chipping away at those rocks. I mean, they probably couldn't even really fathom what it was going to look like until they took a step back, even a
Yeah.
large, long away step back to see what it
Yeah.
looks like in the end. So it's a great way to take a look at that.
Mhm.
Love that. So networking, often means different things to different people, but how do you approach building those relationships, really growing your circle of influence? How do you approach that whole piece of the business?
So for me, it's about the consistency and the authenticity. I mean, if you're going to network, then you have to really commit to it. You have to show up regularly. You have to follow up with people. You have to engage in a meaningful, and sometimes it might feel like it's one-sided conversations, but that's okay. People remember how you make them feel, not just what you say. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I hired my very first employee was that you don't need to act like a boss, just be yourself. And that mindset has shaped how I approach relationships, whether it's with clients, collaborators, or peers. Just be real, be kind, and people will respond to that.
Yeah. Well, that is very much you. I love that. So can you share like a specific maybe example of how networking built a key relationship for you and really made a difference in your business?
Well, absolutely. I mean, for me, I'll have to say my relationship with Network Build Grow. It's opened so many doors, and I mean, when you show up consistently, people start to trust you and they see what you stand for. And if your values align with theirs, they'll bring you into their circle. And I mean, I've had clients that I met in Network Build Grow through you that referred me to their other clients simply because they've seen me shown up, they've seen me contribute, and I stayed true to my word in the sense that if I promised I'd get something done, I got it done. And that kind of trust, it's built over time. But once you have it, it's incredibly powerful. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So it's about building relationships, right? We talk
Exactly.
about
Yeah,
that a
yeah, yeah.
lot at Network Build Grow. And one of the greatest things about building relationships is you get to find out some things about the person, not just the business. And
Yeah.
one of the really fun things I found out about you is you also collect comic books.
I do. Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
And that falls right into the whole designer graphic guy,
Yes.
piece of what you do. And every time I see a comic book, I think about you, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. But how much do you think, like thinking about the business and the personal side of networking, like how much personal is too much personal and how much personal do you want to try to share? And kind of when in the relationship do you start to bring in those little bits?
Um, hmm. It's a tricky one, in the sense that, it's the same as when you start dating in the beginning. You don't want to freak out your potential love interest with too much detail, then she goes running for the hills in my case. So you take it slow. You have to be vulnerable sometimes in terms of what worries you in terms of the future of your business, but also what excites you. And I feel if you find that balance between the exciting and the fearful, but don't let each other overwhelm each other, eventually your fellow let's call other business networking as partners for now, will also open up and start sharing their vision and what makes them excited and nervous. But like all things, you gotta just start, and as time progresses, you'll see more doors open up to share more. But again, it comes with time. So
It
yeah.
comes with time. Yeah. And speaking of time, we go to networking events, whether it's in
Hmm.
person or online, and kind of the general rule of thumb is, so what do you do? And everybody kind of goes
Oh
around and
no.
says what they do. Um, but
Mm,
when do you find is good to kind of dive a little bit deeper? Not asking for the sale right at the beginning, but like when do you find like going around and kind of coming back to that, hey, I could help you, or
mm.
that kind of a conversation, or hey, do you know somebody that I can help? Like when do you find that's a time to kind of delve into that side of it?
Um, for me, I would say after possibly the second introduction or after a couple of conversations on email. Because yes, like you say, I mean, if you just jump off the bat and start with sales, 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 that immediately puts people off. I mean, even myself, if I just met you and the next thing you ask me, hey, am I interested in this product? That's no, you have to build that trust. And, I believe once you build the trust, opportunities will arise if you see there is an opportunity for you there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little
okay.
bit about tech. Hey, let's talk about tech for a second. How do you keep track of your connections, of your strategic business alliances, your networking efforts? How do you kind of keep track of it so you can build those relationships and nobody falls through the cracks?
Um, hmm. Also a tricky one. Funny enough, I have an Excel sheet. So on my Excel sheet, when I meet someone new, I would put their name down, or if there is a potential lead in there, I would put the name down, and I would make a point of just following up. I make a point of following up once a week. Um, although in the same notion, after no response of the second, well, after the first week, I would wait about a month and just try one more time, and then you have to let it go because you don't want to be that person who's annoying either in the second part of it. So, yeah, so I make a point of just following. Oh, and LinkedIn. For those who don't, I mean, for me, as soon as I meet someone on a network, even if I don't know them, so if someone likes my post that I haven't met yet, I immediately add them to my network because obviously they're curious about me. Why would they like my post? And then I make a point of, if I meet someone in a networking event online, I make a point of looking for the names and adding them into my LinkedIn. That way they get to see who I am, get to know me via my social media platforms, so LinkedIn, what I say and how I feel and what I do, and then it grows from there.
I
So
love
yeah.
that. I think a lot of people overlook LinkedIn or
Mm-hmm.
any social media platform, whatever one is their primary one for whatever, because people are different, right? There's some people that LinkedIn's the perfect fit. There's some people, their businesses lean towards Instagram and Facebook. But I think a lot of people overlook those
Mm.
tools. And as a designer, as someone who also does social media management for people and social media posts for people, where do you think people fall down in their networking efforts on those platforms? Like you said, you make an intentional effort to go actually connect with people rather than just like or share their post or just say thanks. But
Mm.
where do you think people could use those tools better for networking and for their business growth?
So I think on each platform it differs ever so slightly. I found that on Facebook, if you have your page and you have 100 followers and you keep posting there, maybe 20% of those 100 followers tend to actually see what you do. Like all things, you gotta put a little bit of money behind it. So especially when it comes to Facebook, I always say just boost your post. I mean, with designer needed, I boost ever so often, but the main thing I find is a lot of people aren't consistent with the posting. So you need to be consistent as well. I mean, we spoke about this right when we started. Be consistent. Realize that on certain platforms, it is going to cost a little bit of extra to get your name out there. I mean, the nice thing about Facebook and Instagram is because they're on Meta, you can get away with something silly like $10 a month and get shown to thousands of people. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then you said that you also connect with people. Do you use the personal messaging feature, like the direct message feature in LinkedIn when you're connecting, when you're meeting someone and trying to build that relationship?
I do. I always add a note though. Well, no, actually, I don't use the direct messaging because I don't use a premium LinkedIn account, even though I could, but I don't. I find just adding a note to my message is usually enough. And yeah, I'd rather use, instead of getting a premium LinkedIn account, I'd rather use that money to maybe boost one of my posts, if anything. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, great. So let's do some rapid fire networking questions. All right. So I'm going to
Okay.
ask you a few questions. I have to put on my handy dandy little glasses here because I'm getting old. And I'm just going to have you just the first few things that pop into your mind when we talk about this. Okay. Ready?
Okay. Okay.
All right. What is one common mistake that people make when they're networking?
They try to sell too soon. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. Like we
Yeah.
just said, take your time, get to know people, and there will be a space eventually, but you got to realize it's going to take time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you have to remember that selling is also like asking for a referral too soon. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
refer you till I know you a little bit better. So that's, I always find that one's kind of interesting as well. Okay. All right. When attending an event, either online or in person, do you go for quality or quantity of new connections and why?
I go for quality. The reality is, if I'm going to start, let's say I'm at an in-person event, I start bouncing from people to people to people. Sure, maybe out of 1 out of 5 people, I might actually get a possible connection. But if I slow it down, let's say at a networking event, it's a couple of hours, I meet 3 people, but I actually have a proper conversation and we see how we align in terms of where we want to go in our own sense for our own business. You often find quickly who you're going to resonate with and walk a journey with longer. Something that always stands out to me is you you tend to buy or invest in people you like, and we all do that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
is so true. All
Yeah.
right. One last question, then I'll let you go, which by the way, I love how you said a proper conversation. I love that. But one last question is, what is your number one tip for starting that proper conversation at a networking event?
So this is a tricky one because it's either gonna work tremendously or fail miserably. But someone
Okay.
doing this, yeah, no, because so I met someone and a gentleman called Anthony, and we're actually still connected today. So met him at a networking event, and one of the first things he said to me, I can't remember, I said something and he picked up on it, and he said to me, yeah, going through a divorce is one of the hardest things you can do in your life. And I think he assumed that I might have been through one, but the fact that he was vulnerable so quickly, and the fact that I immediately understood, what it's like to go through something like that, there was an immediate connection. And today he's one of my clients, and he's been my client for a year. But whenever we speak to each other, it's not like those typical, oh, look at the sun. Have you seen the weather? How's the kids? It's a proper, like, how are you, my friend? What's happening? How can I help you? And it's the strangest thing. I think it's immediately because we met on this emotional kind of level. And that's why, yeah, and it just works. But that's why I say it's either going to work great or it's going to fail. So
Yeah.
that's really, so yeah.
Yeah, so I think trying to find some kind of an emotional or connection outside of the weather and business
Yes.
is really
Yes.
important. One of our kind of go-to questions, most people's go-to question is, so what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
Which that one just drives me crazy. But one of the go-to questions that's really fun to ask is, what brilliance do you bring to the world? Or
Oh, I
what do you
like that.
love about what you do? Which is a different
I
question
like
than what
that.
you do. It's what do you love about what you do? And just try to get them talking first, because then you can sometimes find that thing, right? That you can say,
Mm.
oh, and you can latch onto that and say, oh, there's a little nugget that we have
Yeah.
in common, that we have a connection to. So
It's
I love that.
it's funny you say that. There's one that I've started doing of late where I say to someone, "So, are you happy in your business today?" And that kind of opens quite a bit of thought.
That
So,
could
yeah.
open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had I was somewhere. I don't remember where I was. I don't think it was a business networking event. I think it was an award ceremony for something. And someone asked me, they came up and said, "What's your biggest life struggle right now?"
Oh, wow.
And I thought, well, that might be a little too personal, but it was almost like the armor came down just by them
Yeah.
asking. It was the way it was asked. It was like genuine,
Mm.
So it was kind of an interesting. So I think especially if you've met someone 3 or 4 times, I think that's a good question. Just like, what is your biggest life struggle right now? Or what is your biggest struggle? And
Yeah.
they might share something with you,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting. So, well, this has been a very fun conversation. Let's just do one parting little thing. What is the favorite thing in your business? What do you love to do the most in your business as we sign off today?
My favorite, it's a two-parter again, but I love the fact that I have to answer to me. So there's no, why are you late? Why do you only start now? Even though sometimes I could be late for starting in the morning of business, I have the responsibility to make it up to myself. And I like that. I like the freedom that comes with it. The fact that I don't have to answer to anybody when I quickly have to run to the shop or I quickly have to go do something. And I try give that to people I work with or people who work for me as well. Not that I necessarily want people just running out, but they have that freedom. Like if you gotta go, you gotta go. We're human. I'm never gonna go, oh no, you gotta sit. This is what I pay you for. So I love that freedom, and I try give the way that I was never treated. I try to treat people in that same way with that goodness and that kindness, because I feel that goes a lot further. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I figured you would say when you get to draw and create. I'm sure you love that part too.
Well, that's actually that was going to be the second part, but I got distracted by my own thoughts there. Squirrels. But yeah, so I'd say all the people I get to meet and the things they get to share, it's crazy. There's designs we often do that I would do with my designers and the team, and I'm always like blown away. Like I don't know if you saw I posted yesterday, we got to make a little bag for carrots, and it was such an interesting process because apparently the carrot bags, I don't know how they do it there, but the carrot bags here, they used to come in a little orange bag, but it was cross-lined, little blockies in it. And when we did the bag, they were like, you need to just put that on there again. They print it now because it needs to protect the carrots, doesn't show all the inconsistency on the products if there is any inconsistencies. And that was so interesting for me. Like, yeah.
Wow.
So it really was. Yeah. So yeah.
That's very crazy. And I remember another project I saw a few years ago. Didn't you design like an airplane wrap? Like you a whole like big huge airplane.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, it was.
Amazing project.
My favorite was whenever I flew on the plane, because I used to go from Joburg to Cape Town quite a bit, and then people would say, "Oh, look at the plane, look how amazing!" And I so wanted to say, "Oh, that was me," but no one would have believed me. I don't think they would have believed me. So yeah.
That's hysterical. Well, thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Network Build Grow podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur or professional. And of course, if you're not yet part of our community, visit networkbuildgrow.com to connect with us. Until next time, keep building and keep growing.